Be honest. You went back into that room.
Don't let us down, Brendan.
We know you were back there.
For some viewers of the Netflix documentary series Making a Murderer, this is the most infuriating part of the story.
Brandon, were you there when this happened?
No.
Okay. Was she dead there then or not?
Yeah. How do you know that?
Brendan Dassey, Stephen Avery's then 16-year-old nephew, admitting he helped his uncle kill Teresa Halbach.
Tell me where he shot her. Like in the head and in the belly and stomach.
Critics say this video shows Dassey, who has a low IQ, being manipulated into giving a false confession.
Looking at the interrogation tape of Brendan Dassey, what leaps out to you?
Cognitively impaired, naive young man led by intelligent, well-trained adults who's a manipulative set of techniques to try to get him to reveal details or adopt a storyline suggested to him.
Am I going to be at school before school ends? Probably not.
But the judge ruled that the confession was given freely and willingly, and so it was allowed into evidence during Dassey's trial.
You feel confident that what we're seeing is a legitimate confession?
Yes. I would invite any of your viewers to read the entire transcript and before, again, buying what is spoon-fed them.
Even though during his trial, Brendan said he made it all up, he was sentenced to life in prison.
We, the jury, find the defendant, Brendan R. Dassey, guilty of first-degree intentional homicide as party to a crime.
While so many people across the country are obsessed with this story.
How many times have you been here?
3. This is my 3rd.
This woman has taken it to the next level.
They're okay letting you rummage through the file?
Yeah, you have to make an appointment first.
Local reporter and journalism professor Jessica McBride.
Okay, so there's a change of venue. That's interesting.
Has become a sort of freelance gumshoe.
There's so much, more that didn't get through the funnel of the documentary.
Combing through the court documents herself. She drove us around Mishicot, Wisconsin.
The closer you get to, say, Mishicot and the area where the Averys actually live, the more likely people are to say, well, we're just certain they're guilty.
People did not want to speak to us on camera about this case. And they feel really sorry for Teresa Halbach's family, who now have to live through this story yet again.
The real victim here is almost forgotten in the media hype.
A sentiment we heard echoed when we visited Manitowoc County Sheriff Robert Herman.
Here we are a decade later. You have no concern that some of your people might have done something inappropriate with the evidence?
No, I do not.
Zero.
In fact, the sheriff revealed to us that one of the deputies who found Teresa Halbach's key in Stephen Avery's bedroom, then Patrol Sergeant Colburn, now has a new position.
He handles our evidence here and our investigative division.
Here's how former Avery defense attorney Dean Strang responded when we told him what we'd heard. But perhaps the strangest twist in this whole saga is that 3 years after the trial, prosecutor Ken Kratz became embroiled in scandal.
Serial sexter? A third woman comes forward to say that Wisconsin district attorney sent her inappropriate messages.
He pleaded no contest to 6 counts of misconduct after the Associated Press unearthed racy texts Kratz had sent to a domestic violence abuse victim.
I hope to regain the trust of the crime victims community.
He says his problems stemmed from a drug dependency.
Being the center of attention for 18 months every day, kind of being in the limelight and things, then going back to normal. And I started medicating.
He lost his wife and his job, but now, 5 years later, he says he is sober and running a business as a defense attorney, although he says his business has now dried up because of the bad publicity from Making a Murderer.
If this costs me my private law practice, I'll take that trade, because I know I did the right thing.
Kratz may be embattled, but prominent voices are beginning to come to his side, including HLN host Nancy Grace.
Stephen Avery is the killer. The evidence showing his guilt, the overwhelming evidence showing his guilt, is left out of the Netflix documentary.
But Stephen Avery and Brendan Dassey are fighting back hard. Avery now has a new attorney who has a history of freeing the wrongly convicted. Meanwhile, Dassey is waiting on a decision from a federal judge which could allow a new trial. It's easy to walk away from the documentary thinking Avery and Dassey may not have done it.
I think a good life till all the trouble started.
But the more time I spent on the ground here in Wisconsin with people like Jessica McBride,
Well, should we go to the high school where Brendan went to school?
the more I realized that whatever conclusion you land on, you really have to get comfortable with some very uncomfortable facts. For example, if he did it,
You have to swallow the fact that everything was going right in his life, and yet he, at this moment when he was about to successfully sue law enforcement, was going to do something that would bring the full weight of law enforcement down upon him.
I agree with that. So what the documentary did is it focused on the inconvenient facts that are weird for the law enforcement authorities. And I think they're legitimate questions.
in the end, I left Wisconsin more confused than when I arrived.
Does any part of you suspect that he may in fact be guilty?
A big part of me worries that he might be guilty. And an even bigger part of me says, you know, if convicting people on maybes or possiblies was how the system worked, that's great. We could all slap each other in the back and go out for a beer. But that's not how the system's supposed to work.
In the end, Avery's former defense attorney and even the makers of Making a Murderer say this case may remain a mystery. And a bitterly contested mystery at that. We should say that we reached out to the Halbach family for comment about Making a Murderer, and they declined. They did tell our local station, quote, "We are saddened to learn that individuals and corporations continue to create entertainment and to seek profits from our loss."